Order, Kathy, I'm sorry. I know. It doesn't say pledge the flag, but we'll do it anyway. If we'll stand for the pledge to the flag. Mr. Buckles, would you lead us?
Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yes, before we get started, Ms. Jorgensen would like to speak.
I just want to explain this.
She's not recording us.
Right, I'm not recording. I had pretty serious neck surgery. I was in a brace for a while with this, but this is putting some kind of an electrical something back to help bone growth. So that's, we're not going to explode. It's not a bomb.
I thought it was a shock collar, but I could, when you started saying stuff,
No,
I
actually,
could.
if you hug me too hard, it gives you a shock. Thank you, Jane.
Okay. On the agenda today is discussion, input, and action from the Insurance Committee recommendation on health care. So, this is our first time seeing it, but doesn't look like it's changed any. How much?
Madam Chair, there were two, I wasn't at the insurance meeting on the FSFOA, but Shannon stood in my stead and she emailed me that they only made two changes. And one was on number 5, they changed the open enrollment dates because it's been postponed.
Right.
And we haven't voted yet. And they recommended removing item 7, which if you'll recall was the clause, consider going out to all HSA plans in 2020 and start educating employees. So everything else stands as the original document that came to you.
Wasn't there an 8 also? Or no?
8.
Let's see exactly.
Because the superintendent had, you had asked for 6 and 7 or 7 and 8?
6 and 7.
Okay, sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. Yep, it was 6 and 7.
Okay, I just have a couple of questions, and then I want to make a comment
Mr.
about...
Bowen just came in too, if you have any questions.
Okay. And I guess this will be for Danny. Both of these questions that I have, if you want to come up.
We also have Mr. Albritton with a veil.
And maybe Mr. Albritton. I just want to know, how can we be assured that our employees aren't incurring the cost of us using a veil? You know, are we absorbing that cost? And how
United
can we
Healthcare
be-
is paying for that cost.
Okay.
And United Healthcare is here to give us the nod. Both of the
Okay.
representatives are here. So they're paying for that cost at the time.
Okay, and then the second question,
Can I clarify, is that for 18 and 19 or just 18?
That's for 19 as well. So, and once we right the ship, you have the ability to either pay for it out of your own pocket as far as the district, or we negotiate that with either United or Blue Cross or whomever your carrier is at the time.
Okay.
Obviously, we're in the process of, they've invested in trying to right the ship by them paying for a veil out of their own pocket.
okay, and I haven't seen anything, so I don't know, this is an honest question. Have the administrative cost on your end increased any from 2018 to 2019 that our employees would be incurring?
No.
Okay.
No, I just wanted to look at United real quick to make sure that
Okay,
there's no.
just to be sure, okay.
Absolutely.
That answers both of my questions. And then the other, I just want to make it clear that I'm not in support of discontinuing the subsidy right now for our retirees.
either.
I think we've crossed that bridge after the last meeting. Paul had sent out an email. I don't know where Paul went. There he is. I'm sorry. He sent out an email where he had done some math with Tammy and realized that his suggestion to end that was inappropriate. So that's been pulled, but not really pulled, right? We're good.
Pull, but not really?
Yeah,
Okay.
we didn't get it done on this.
Yeah, okay, all right. Did you want to say anything about Paul? And I'm sorry we couldn't.
No problem. Regarding that, we asked Tammy and Shannon, or I asked Tammy and Shannon about the fees that the retirees paid. There was some question about that, and she sent a form showing that, and she walked me through it, and it appears that I was wrong. It's what it looks like. I was going to get with Rhonda a little later and see and make sure. But due to those circumstances, and that was something that was mentioned in the paper, that probably, and the paper said that the committee would have not voted for the getting rid of the $100 subsidy, you know, I spoke as myself.
Yeah.
It was just individual speaking, but I would not have done that if I had known. So,
Okay, let me ask you this. Is that $100 subsidy that we give our retirees until they go on Medicare? Or is it for a supplement or what, I mean, does it continue?
I think it continues on as long as they're on the school district insurance, right?
Most of them go off when they hit Medicare because our plan.
Right, so we're no longer giving them
Right.
that subsidy.
Not if they. only
Right, that's
get it
kind
if
of,
they
yeah.
are.
Yeah, but some are.
So some retirees do take our insurance?
After age 65, there are a few. I don't think a whole lot, but there are a
I
few.
was gonna say, why in the world?
Danny, do we have a Medicare
Yeah,
supplement?
most after 65 have moved to the new plan that was set up. You had a few that were 90, 92 years old that it was difficult to get them to understand the shift. Tammy's not here, so we just left those 2 or 3. The other retirees he's speaking of, you have folks that retire at 55.
Right.
So they're going to be on the regular insurance until they get to
That's what I meant.
65. So those are the ones that are getting $100, and there's around 100 of them, I think, something like that.
Sorry, I was.
Around 100 of those retirees that are between,
So Danny, we're not still giving it to the 92-year-olds?
no.
No, just the gap, the donut.
Well, and I don't think those
whatever they
couple of
call it.
92-year-olds, and Tammy and I had a long talk about that. It was a great program that we brought in. It is a great program that we brought in, gives them a lot more choices, helps them get off of our policy and get those claims off of our policy. But a lot of them had been on the other plan for a really long
And
time, and
they're
it was
scared to-
changed, and it was difficult.
Scared to change.
So the ones, which was 98% of them that we helped with the shift, were very comfortable, but there was a few that Tammy was worried about, and she takes care of them like they're her children, so.
There is a way, and we discussed it at the meeting, or it was discussed the other day. Rhonda would know how, and Shannon and their finance team, to do an alternative schedule for future retirees and let the ones that are in it stay until they leave. But I think that's about the only way you could figure out how to do that without litigation. I mean,
Grandfather in the one.
grandfather
Right.
some in, and then
And I mean, we can
a
cross
few that are in
bridge.
drop, let them have some kind
How
of
many
rate,
teachers
and
on
then
annual
that would
contract?
be up for
Yeah.
them if they the majority of the board so decides to go that route in the future, so.
Madam Chair, I also asked Rhonda, if you don't mind explaining, and maybe you and Danny, but over the weekend, one concern I had was some of our employees on the bottom of the pay scale. I wanted to make sure, because a lot of these employees will not be able to have insurance at all. And I just wanted to see if there's any other options as far as them being eligible for the, the marketplace, if the increase in insurance exceeded that, 9%? That 9.5%. Just for their clarification, Rhonda and or Danny, could y'all just address that? Because I think that is a concern a lot of people have also.
And we did the calculations this weekend and we're good, but the law states for 2019 that as a large employer that we have to offer coverage that is both affordable and provides minimum coverage or will be subject to a penalty. And one of the safe harbors for the penalty is that it can't be more than, I think it was for 2019, it was 9.58 or something like that of the federal poverty level. And I did that calculation, and Plan E is an affordable plan. And so I put the question out to Danny and to United Healthcare whether it met the minimum value coverage, because that states something like it has to cover at least 60% of expected out-of-pocket cost, and says only the host could come up with that calculation. And I got an email back from Danny and from Cassandra, who's the Vice President of Account Management for Coordinated Benefits Group, that all plans offered meet that minimum value. So we are meeting the letter of the law, because otherwise we would have a penalty of the lesser of $34.80 per full-time employee that went out there and got a subsidy, or $23.20 per full-time employee total less the first 30, which could be whichever was lesser, and it could be a huge penalty. Now, I think our employees can go out and try to get a subsidy, but because we do offer a plan that is both affordable and meets the minimum value, I don't think they would be approved for one. But if they did get one based on their salary, we wouldn't be penalized for them getting a subsidy. And Danny, you might speak more, or someone else, about
All
the insurance law.
Offset that even more is if you guys decide to make any more of a contribution towards the benefits. So that would make a difference as well.
I
Well, right
really am
now,
in
we do
favor of
meet
that.
the law, and the district can't be penalized because
Find
we
the money.
offer.
And it is E.
It is E. And all plans do not have to meet both clauses. You just have to have at least one plan that meets both clauses, and E does.
While you're there,
It's probably a question, oh, yes.
okay,
Mine is-
I want to add, we've got a recommendation to increase our subsidy, which I'm fine with, but to increase, then that's going to come out of the insurance fund, correct? But if we increased it any further, that would come out of the general fund?
Hold on a second, let me get my
We
calculator.
got a couple million in the insurance,
Right, so.
or a million.
Yeah,
So
we've got,
until we use
You'd
it
have to
up,
make,
Right.
you'd have to make that decision because the money in the group insurance fund is a finite amount, and once it's gone, we do add to it a little bit every year for the employees in the general fund that don't have our insurance. But when we pay out this $1,000 subsidy to the retirees and this additional amount that we're talking about, it comes from that pot. So that pot's going to go down every year if we don't have more going into it than's coming out. So if you make a decision to increase our board contribution for the general fund people, yes, it would come from the general fund. Title I people, NEFAC people, it would come from their funding source if you make that decision to make an overall board contribution.
Okay.
Up
You
in
didn't
it.
just say we're giving money to employees that don't use our insurance, did you?
No.
We charge.
Okay.
When we budget, every person out there gets charged that $4,500 a year to their account strip. It goes into the group insurance fund.
Okay.
And the ones that don't take our insurance that we have to pay out to United Healthcare, that helps that pot have money in it
Good.
to do these other things like this additional $50 a month that we're doing, and the retiree subsidy and things like
Okay,
that. So
Ms. Jorgensen has a question.
I have a question, and it's probably gonna sound a little odd, but maybe somewhere somebody's doing it. In my mind, the people that work for us making $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 a year should not be receiving the same subsidy as our bus drivers. And I don't know if there's a way, if Danny's ever heard of it, or anybody's, a percentage, or there has to be a mathematical way to figure, if you make over 50, we're gonna give whatever. But it just doesn't seem fair to me that we're giving the employees that, across the board, the same amount of money.
most districts do, and we always have. That's certainly something that the board and through negotiations that could be decided, but right now it's contract language that everybody gets the
Right,
same.
but maybe
Yeah.
you could, for the new board, maybe Rhonda, you have a lot of contacts, maybe you could find out if any districts are doing something like that and
Yeah.
bring the information
And I have a
back to the board.
spreadsheet that has about 40 districts on it and what their
Great.
board contribution is. And right now, I'd say probably only about 3 of the 40 have a fluctuation, but it's more whether it's employee only or employee spouse or family, and they provide different amounts. None of them are based on different
Salary. How
much you
categories,
make.
salaries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are our part-time or like 4-hour-a-day cafeteria workers eligible for school board insurance?
As long as they work 20 hours a week, they are
Yeah,
eligible.
because they're not going to be able to
Right.
afford this. Okay.
Madam Chair, the other issue that Mr. Buckles brought up was about the 30-day cancellation.
Correct.
And I think y'all talked about this in the insurance committee meeting, and I know Mr. Douglas was researching it. Danny, was there your understanding that was already built into?
Yeah, so if we decide that we want to make a change to, I know Avail had discussed us changing the anniversary date from January 1 to 10/1, so we wouldn't have the issue that we have right now, which is dancing around holidays, because we've got that issue. It's a big issue.
Yeah.
And it expands the amount of time we need to go to bid if we decide to go to bid. So one of the suggestions that Avail made would be to move to a 10/1 anniversary date. So the question came up, can we cancel and move to a 10/1 if we need to without any penalties? And the answer is yes. We can. We can cancel and move.
So,
Is
in
that-
essence, that would allow us, if we choose to go to bid at an earlier time than we traditionally talk
Yes.
about doing, maybe summer or whenever.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
And Mr. Albritton is here. He's the guy that has the information on surrounding districts, how our comparisons are. Every question that you guys have, he pretty much has a grip on it because that's what he does in his firm. So if you have any questions about how we're going to, the object of trying to build a healthier workforce, now would be the time to ask him the questions. And at some point in the future, I think before we get into this project next year, we need to have a workshop with he and Avail
Yes.
to educate us more on where we need to go.
Yeah, he's offered to do a procurement workshop in January, so you guys can get a better grip on exactly how it works to start moving towards going to bid. So we can schedule that in the near future to set that up. There was also some information that was passed around last week comparing the school district to the county's benefits and admin fees and reinsurance fees and benefits and cost. And Avail, Mr. Albritton, broke that down in an email and sent it back. Some of the folks at the last insurance committee meeting were confused about that because they hadn't heard about it. So I made copies and passed it around, but it did help clarify the math between the two. So if y'all have any questions about that, he's here for that as well.
And we actually, in our administrative meeting, we met, actually talked to Mr. Albritton last week. We were just going through those costs to make sure everything was in line, because, I mean, we're looking at everything we can to make sure we're giving our employees an opportunity to save money.
Yeah, and actually what we found is not only they're in line, we're in better shape as the school district than the county is right now, and the county's MLR, medical loss ratio, is much lower than the school district, so that's saying a lot. We're in the right direction, we just got to continue in the right direction.
I have a question about number one, the recommendation. That's replacing a $300 subsidy that was approved for 1 year only. Are we approving this $500 from 1 year only? And if so, I'd say make it $1,000 because we have a healthy egg nest in our insurance fund, and hopefully the rates won't be as high next year because we'll get healthier.
Yeah, so, and let me speak to that just a little bit. What happened last year was we got the $30, but we got it at the very end of open enrollment. So we lost people instead of either keeping
That's
or
right,
gaining.
I remember that.
So if we wait until December now, which I know you might have to because of contract language and stuff I'm not familiar with, but if we wait until December now, we'll be halfway through done with open enrollment. So last year we had people come back to us afterwards and said, oh, if I'd have known it was only going to cost me $10 a month, I might have stayed on the insurance, or I might have picked up the insurance. So the idea is if we spend more, and I know I'm stepping on Rhonda's toes here a little bit, but if we spend more and encourage some of the healthy people to either stay on or get back on the plan, then we drive the rates down in the future,
Exactly.
and actually we don't deplete that fund as much because we'll start driving the premiums back down. Because right now, as Paul has made crystal clear, we're in a death spiral where our young healthy folks are bailing off and our sick people are staying on, and we're trying to right the ship, and it's getting very difficult. If we gave a little more in contributions, we get more of the young folks to stay on. We have a better benefit package to offer to employees to encourage them to come over to Putnam County instead of going to Flagler or Volusia. That point has been made crystal clear to us in many insurance committee meetings. Maybe our income levels meet, but our insurance does not, so we're losing employees or we're having a hard time recruiting employees. All this would kind of start to mold that, right the ship, as I always say.
I would really strongly recommend that we do give the $1,000 subsidy to get the
Well,
healthy employees back on if
Yeah,
possible.
but for you.
1 year
yeah.
only.
Okay.
Oh, 1 year only, definitely.
Could I speak
Yeah,
briefly?
I wanna hear
All right.
it, yeah.
First off, it's not stepping on my toes at all. This is the board's money, so the board makes recommendations. I would always suggest that if you do a subsidy from the group insurance or from anywhere, if it's a subsidy, you do it for 1 year and 1 year only. We can reevaluate the fund next year. Right now, the fund has $2.5 million in it. That's as of June 30th. I'm not going to do a calculation when we're on 10-month pay and things like that right now, based on the money going in and going out. We currently have 1,095 employees on the plan, on our plans. At 500,000, at $500 a year, that was going to be 547,500. And if you keep the retiree subsidy, which I'm assuming you are, that's another 110,000. So that's currently 647,000 that's going to come from that pot. If you vote to up it, you know, that would be an additional amount, another 550,000. It can sustain it, you know, for now, but I think it would be a one-time deal only. And my only caution, please, you know, ever what the board wants to do, is that if you get the employees used to having an extra $1,000 a month, and then you can't do it, you can't do it next year, then that might be where we run into problems, you know. I said it's $1,000 per year, so, and we don't know what next year's going to happen, whether there's going to be another rate increase, and then if we have to add our rate increase.
Crawford
Any
made a
amount.
good suggestion, and I have to concur. I think maybe splitting the difference from 500 to 1,000, because anything we do is going to have to be bargained by Mr. Bowling and the staff, or the bargaining unit, and like the ones that do make more money. We've been through this over the years a lot of times, and it's normally the only fair way to do it is to give a percentage across the board increase. And I know the superintendent will deal with the same issues that I dealt with, because your management and your outside the bargaining unit employees feel like they're being slapped around just because they've got advanced degrees or made more money, you know. But that's just talk. I mean, I think I would have to favor what Jane said, maybe split the difference. I just, because you don't know, you know, we're looking at going out to bid next year, and
Well, I think our employees need to know that we're doing everything
Yes.
in our power. You know, we've gone to the table with all of this, and nothing's changed. So, you know, we need to make a good faith effort to do everything that we can do as a board, even if it's just for 1 year.
yeah.
And they'll understand that.
And they need to
1 year.
understand that to
Yeah,
help
that has
them
to
with
be
these
crystal clear.
increased premiums.
And Danny and Tammy need to know quick enough that these people don't walk away from us like they did last year, the last couple of years. So I guess that's up to the.
Thomas, did you want to say something?
I was kind of going to echo, I think, what Mr. Buckles was saying in the direction he was going in, and that's just, I feel very comfortable writing an MOU, and I will certainly do whatever I'm instructed to do to increase the board contribution to the subsidy from $30 a month or $300 a year to $50 a month or $500 a year. But beyond that, I think it's maybe appropriate to go into negotiations and go into executive session and then negotiate if we plan on rising it any further. But if you're set on just a 1-year deal, I mean, it would
1
be
year.
appropriate just to
year.
put it in the.
1 year.
but
1
it's-
year at $750. I mean, we got to make a motion, but.
And then we're saying that we're going to 10/1, October 1 to start.
We haven't said that
That's
yet.
not a
Said that
recommend-
yet,
yeah.
okay.
And
Because
then
that will give us time.
The 30-day would give us flexibility.
Okay.
if we do the $750, then, you know, for 1 year, and then we're going to look at our pot of money next year and see, hopefully our rates will go down next year, and we're healthier, and, you know, we might have to pull back on the entire amount of $750 and do $500.
You don't know what the government's going to do.
Right.
Yep.
But there are two key things that you said, Jamie. Number one, we are showing a good faith effort to the employees that we are attempting to do something to help. And then the other one that has skipped me, so that's okay.
Yeah, but we have to ask them to help.
Second one, gone.
Avail has offered programs now for 2 years, and
The people don't take advantage.
participation is low, so I would love to get a message out that the board is trying to help the employees. They need to help
But you can get it.
themselves with these things that are offered to them.
I've talked to Mr. Albritton. I mean, I think we're gonna sit down and look at some long-range plans that, I mean, we're working on it now, but I think there's some other options 3 and 5 years ahead that we can do.
Promote it.
Well, just some different
Yeah.
things that we've talked about in the past, but we're gonna have to, we're gonna have to put it into practice or it's not gonna get any better.
But Rick's right in this respect. I can remember trying to get the state to band together with all school districts to offer a, you know, statewide insurance.
People have asked me
They don't
about
want that. But, you know, none of they don't want our poor insurance rates. You've got others that say, can't we get with the county in different entities, and they don't want that. And, you know, we've tried so many of these things, but
We're in a
our
row.
health rates are so poor.
Because that's what happens when you teach school.
Yes, and if we don't follow Joe's advice, we're gonna be in this death spiral for a while.
Mental health
Yeah,
counseling
really.
for the teachers.
Well, I think a lot of that has to do with the people that aren't on the plan because, and I was going to mention, the reason I walked up here is I've had 3 people from my department ask if they could quit the insurance, and none of them are the sick ones. And,
Right.
and you know, one of them even asked me if they could go on the HSA and just not have insurance. I asked me that no later in this morning. This increase would be great. It's only going to be for a one-time deal, a Band-Aid, if you will, and that'll give y'all time. Hopefully,
Limp
through
through
the
the year.
legislature and budgeting, that the contribution, would be increased. And I just want to harken back to 2015, whenever you made the broker decision. There was Benji from Ben Bates Insurance. He said at that time that the contribution has lagged, and it hadn't gotten any better, and the insurance hadn't gotten any better, and the people are dropping off. So it's a downward cycle unless we try to start stemming it. We're not going to be able to fix it in 1 year. It didn't happen in 1 year, so we can't undo it in 1 year. So, but it's going to take steps to get there from here. So,
Excuse me, Ms. Odom, could you give me the number again that's in the roughly what's in the insurance
How much is in the pot right now?
pot?
2,504,000.
Okay, because I'm estimating that based on what Rhonda said before, it's about 1 million, roughly, $1,031,250. And that's with the 110,000 added on for a $750 So we're not using half even
Yeah,
of
we can
what's
do it this
there.
year.
We can easily do it this year. And hopefully the message is, we're doing our part. If they would do their part, the rates would come down.
And that leaves Rhonda and her department and the superintendent something to work with in case we get in a tight during this year,
Yes.
this calendar year, and
Yes.
going into next year and the year after, so.
Well, having some money left, I'm glad you're not depleting that, because having
Right.
some money left in there is going to give us some options
Yes.
going forward,
Right.
long term, where we can use that to
Exactly,
whatever we choose to do.
exactly.
Somebody
We
needs
need
to
a
make a
I
motion.
I'd like to
wish
make
y'all
a-
would ask Joe Albritton some questions if you had them, but maybe you don't need to now, maybe with a workshop in January.
Well, that's what I was
Water
thinking,
for
yeah.
me.
We need to go ahead and.
I'd like to
Sharon,
make
if
a
you-
motion on number 1, that we provide a subsidy of $750 per year for employees on Plan C, D, and E from the Group Insurance Fund for 2019. It is a one-time subsidy.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Okay.
If nobody has objection, I will bundle 2, 3, 4, and 5 and make a motion that we approve the Insurance Committee's recommendation as written for items 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Is there a second?
Second, Sandy second.
Go ahead, David, second.
Okay, Dan.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
And I make a motion to adjourn.
Do we need
We
to-
took care of 6.
Do we need to?
It's off.
It's
It's
all.
off,
off,
because
yeah,
we're
we're
not
not
gonna
doing
take that away.
Correct.
Okay, all right,
Superintendent asked us not to.
okay.
Does anybody else have anything they'd like to say?
Bye.
I would just like to commend the board on your efforts to do everything possible, the best we can to help our employees with this insurance situation. And with that, our meeting is adjourned.
Yes, ma'am.
Want to scare-